Zimbabwe is gearing up towards its first elections after the long-time rule of former President Robert Mugabe. President Emerson Mnangagwa has announced that the country will hold its national elections on the 30th of July. The president made the official announcement this morning via his Twitter page, reiterating his commitment to free and fair elections. This will be the first time in decades that ousted leader Robert Mugabe is not standing for president. Mr. Mnangagwa, who took power after Mr. Mugabe was ousted in November last year, will stand against Nelson Chamisa, the president of the opposition party Movement for Democratic Change. Let's get more on this from an Africa Affairs analyst, Ayo Onipogi. Glad to have you on the program.
Same here.
Right, so do you see Zimbabwe actually holding elections in July? The president has promised. He came in, with a lot of, talk to the people that, things are going to change from now on. But do you think, between now and July is enough time to prepare for such important elections?
If you see what happened when Robert Mugabe there was a coup d'etat sometimes in November last year. And after that, he was mandated to step aside, and his deputy came into power. From then, the United Nations, everybody was clamoring on him for him to give us a timetable for an election. And from what he just did now, you cannot tell me that. From what he just did now, you will see that it's very obvious that he's transparent. What he promised that he was going to do in the next 6 months, we're in the 5th month of the year. He's done it. And I believe the election for it to hold, it's almost 100% sure that the election would hold, because he's promised and he's come with a timetable that come another 2 months, they should have a new president.
Right. Another promise he made was, for the elections to be free and fair. Do you think, Zimbabwe has the structures in place to be able to pull this off?
For Zimbabweans, what I will say is, with a population that is close to 16.9, 17 million, they have a lean population if you compare them with some other countries. And if their population is not that could explode, if not that could explode, you will see that if the president is fair, the current president is fair, what he said can come to pass, because he has promised. And what they have to do is not what as we say, is out of place. For it to be free and fair, in as much as he commands the military, the police, for it to be free and fair, it's very, very possible, because there are people watching him.
Well, another way for it to be free and fair is an agreement signed between Zimbabwe and the EU for election observers to be deployed for the elections in July. Do you think their presence will lend some credence to this?
No, he signed that about a week ago. The presence of the EU participants because everybody in the world, we now know that all countries, for you to have democratically elected government is the best, because there are several things that will come to the country as a plus. So it pays him for Eve to conclude the election. But the possibility that it's going to be fair, we might not rule that, because he is the sitting president. So, but that there will not be an election, I don't think that will not happen. There will definitely be an election. How free it will be, that I cannot say.
Right. Every year, every time the country held elections for more than 30 years, the former president, Robert Mugabe, had participated. But now he's no longer a part of the system. But do you think it could still have an influence in the outcome?
The possibility is very high, because ZANU, that was a party that Robert Mugabe belonged to, is the same party that the Emerson will be riding on. So the likelihood is very high. But we should look at it from one angle. He's going to be contesting against a younger guy that is 40-year-old. And the president will be contesting with a guy that is 40 years old. And people in Zimbabwe, they are now better informed. We have a lot of Zimbabweans that are outside the country. So the possibility and the likelihood that the president might come in because they are the ruling party is slightly slim, because they have a strong opposition. Where Tsvangirai, in as much as he's late now, but at least it has a structure that can oppose the ruling party.
Right. So far, opposition parties have been campaigning without the fear of violence or being arrested. More than 5 million people, I hear, have already registered to vote. Is this a sign of good things to come?
Yeah, it's a sign, because I've told you, with a population of 16 million, if you have 5.5 million that have registered, at least minimum 2.2 or half of it are going to finally decide, and they will be at the polling booth to vote on that day. So if this happened in Zimbabwe, it shows that they are ready for another civilian rule that is outside that of Mugabe, that ruled for 37 years. Non-stop.
Right. Thank you for your thoughts on that, African Affairs analyst Ayoni Bogi. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure.
Network
My pleasure.
Africa. Let's move on. In Paris, rival Libyan factions agreed on a declaration that would create a political framework to pave the way for UN-backed elections in December. This comes after a peace talk meeting that included the eastern-based commander Khalifa Haftar, Tripoli Prime Minister Fayez Sarraj, and the leaders of rival parliamentary assemblies. The meeting aimed to urge them to agree general principles for ending the country's 7-year-old conflict and moving towards elections. The 4 stakeholders agreed on a document to work constructively with the United Nations to realize credible and peaceful elections by December the 10th and abide by the results. Since 2014, the oil-producing nation has been divided between competing political and military groups based in Tripoli and the East. Still to come on Network Africa. A Somali military court sentences 3 men to death for the October 2017 attack in Mogadishu. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.